Welcome back. Let's get started with setting up WooCommerce. So please ensure that you are logged into the backend of your website. Again, your domain.com/wpadmin, and of course log in. So you should come to your dashboard here. And like I said before, you might have some stats here on WooCommerce. This is sort of the beginning, and this is going to be the exciting place to go to and see as you see sales coming in day by day. Of course, just like anything, it's not going to happen overnight. But once you start seeing sales increase and this little chart here goes up and you see that coming in, it's going to be really exciting to see all this work and come together. So the first thing that we're going to do is go down to the WooCommerce settings. There are two menu items that WooCommerce uses to do their functionality. One is where it says WooCommerce here directly, and the other one is products. So those are both associated to WooCommerce. Okay, and WooCommerce, inside there, we have a whole bunch of options, which we will get into when we start setting up our products, and also when we test our website through orders, which we will be going through and seeing how to handle, how to create products and how to handle orders coming in. Okay, so what we want to do is go down to WooCommerce, and you want to highlight the settings option here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on settings and wait for that to open. Now, each video I have is going to be broken up into the main sections as they appear on the tabs up here. The main WooCommerce settings go all the way to emails. Now, there is one missing. There's normally taxes here, which we actually enable through this button here. It doesn't show because we haven't enabled it yet, but we will, just to show you the tax and tax calculations. If you are not charging taxes on your website for any reason, there is no purpose on setting up any tax or tax calculations. But we will want to learn and understand how to do that, so I will put that on there. Okay, so the end part here is we're going to be going through to emails, and I'm not going to be touching on the API. Now, the API tab, this does come with WooCommerce, but it's more of a technical thing for developers. And what it does is it gives access for other websites to be able to communicate with yours and be able to pull or even push information to your website, like creating a product or just viewing your products. So that's what the API is. We're not going to be getting into that on this course. And any other tabs beyond here are extra plugins that are on top of WooCommerce, like this like to discount. So we're going to be talking about more of the plugins from this theme later and configuring those. So I'm not going to touch on that in this WooCommerce section. So we're just going to be going to the emails. Okay, so hopefully you're in the general tab here. I'm going to leave this. You probably have seen this message up quite a bit. And they're saying that there's a new version of the theme available. I'm going to have a supplementary video on updating our theme. So I'll be updating themes, updating plugins, and updating WordPress itself. We'll have some supplementary videos on that. But I'm going to leave that as a reminder for me later on that we do need to update our theme. Okay, just scrolling down here. The base location is the main location of your site, and really it's what country are you primarily in, okay? And that should probably go along with your main currency you're working in. Now, maybe you're selling from a different country and you want to deal in US dollars, that's not a problem. But generally, the rule of thumb is your base location is where you live or where your home base is. So in my case is Canada, but I mean, hey, you might be in United States, and if you want to go specifically to a very specific state, you can do that as well. So I'm in Canada, so I'm just going to be putting in Canada, British Columbia, okay? And that's my base location. Now, selling locations, these are the areas or countries I wish to sell to. So if I say sell to all countries, it doesn't matter where the order comes from. It will offer sales options to those countries. Okay. If they're outside of that, the WordPress has the ability to see that and will not give them checkout options. So we're going to do this specifically for us because, you know what, there are some countries I don't want to sell to. So I can say, you can say sell to all countries except for, you can do it that way in my opinion, or in the way I'm going to do. I'm just going to sell to specific countries. Now I can start typing in a country. So I'm going to say Canada. I want to sell to Canada, and I want to sell to the United States, and maybe to the UK as an example. Okay, so I can sell to these specific countries. Make sure that if you are able to sell to those countries, that if the shipping company that you're going to choose is able to ship to those particular countries. So just double check that first. I always err on the side of caution that limit it at first, and you can always expand it later as you grow your business and you grow your portfolio, and maybe later on down the road your shipping companies and things like that, you might change them out for ones that are a little bit more flexible. Okay, but I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Shipping locations, ship to all countries you sell to. Now the only reason why you would want to say, you know, ship to specific ones or disable anything like that is because if you're selling a digital product or maybe a downloadable product, if you have a downloadable product, you might not have to worry about shipping. So you can actually click down here and disable shipping and shipping calculations. And if I do that, haven't tested it, but I believe that this tab might just disappear completely off of the options here. So that's pretty much what it is. I don't use this ship to specific countries only. There might be a very unique scenario that you have where you sell to a bunch of countries, but you only ship to a few. Perhaps maybe you have a warehouse somewhere else and you've worked into the pricing of your product that shipping is included in. It comes from that warehouse in that country. Whatever the case is, that's kind of confusing. To me, ship to all countries I sell to, that makes most sense to me in this scenario because we're making a site that's going to sell a physical product. Okay, default customer location. So I would say always you want to have your default customer location geolocate. Geolocate with page caching support it just has less strain on your server, where every time the customer changes pages, it checks to see where they're located. I leave it here. It doesn't have, unless you've got, you know, thousands and thousands of hits a day, it makes sense to just do this. There might be your shop base address, meaning that all calculations and everything for tax purposes and stuff like that is off the shop base. I believe that's how this works. You can do that, which is your province here, or if it's a state, if you're in Canada, or if you're in the United States. But I like to just do geolocate. That's the default customer location. It makes the most sense. And if you have any questions here, you can actually hover your mouse over this and see what it says here. And that's how it works. Okay. Moving down here, we're going to just be clicking enable taxes because I want to go through the tax calculations. If you do not collect taxes for whatever reason, maybe your business is not at the point where you collect a sales tax or anything like that, you can just leave it unchecked and skip it. But just for the sake of learning, we're going to check it off and go through some in the sense of Canadian taxes, some provincial taxes there. Also, you know, if you are from other countries where you need to collect a VAT tax, this might be where you need to do that. Okay. Moving down to store notice, this here, if I check this off, it's going to open up this thing. Let's say you have your website open, but you're having some issue. Maybe something's happening to your website. Maybe it's a critical thing. There's a disaster in your area, and you need to let your customers know that you're not going to be shipping product out for the next 2 or 3 days. Whatever the case is, if you actually enable this and type in the message and save it, every person who goes to your website will see a message right at the top. Just right underneath on your website. It'll show right on the top this store-wide message and what's going on exactly. So it will show to everybody. So just make sure that if you're going to put this on, it's usually because there's an emergency that you need to inform every customer that's going to your website about. That's what that is. I'm going to uncheck that because we don't have an emergency. Now on the currency, they set it default to pound sterling. you can search for yours in here. For mine, it's Canadian dollar, or you can select US dollar. That's fine. It's just really the symbol and also the currency, which is CAD in this case. But so if you select American dollar, US dollar, the currency that ends up being used, for instance, when it sends people to PayPal, it will send it to them in the currency that you've selected. So this is the currency position. This is where the symbol is shows whenever it displays a price. So it's really your preference. And obviously that would be currency dependent. So you can have the dollar sign right after or with a space. I'm just going to leave it default like that. When I save it, I believe this should change here. All the rest is normal. If for whatever reason you have a reason to change the separators for thousands, decimals, and how many places, then feel free to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and click change, save changes, and let's scroll down and see. So now it's showing the dollar sign here like I suspected, and it's on the left side. So that's how that works. And so that concludes this video on the general settings of WooCommerce. We'll be moving on to the next tab here in the next video.